This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual professional legal advice. The podcast information was carefully compiled from vetted sources and references. However, R.O.S.E Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly cannot guarantee that you will not fall victim to a scam. Let's talk about scams. It's the must-listen show for anyone who wants to protect themselves and their loved ones from scams. Every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio, Joyce Petrowski, founder of R.O.S E, and her guests will provide valuable insights and practical tips on how to recognize and protect yourself from scams. And now, here is your host, Joyce Petrowski.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm Joyce Petrowski, founder and board president of R.O.S.E Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. You can find more resources on our website at roseadvocacy.org. On the homepage at the bottom, you can sign up for our emailed and or mailed newsletter, and our social media links are on there so you can follow us on our variety of different social media channels. And you can find all the past live streams and shorts on our YouTube channel. The link is on our homepage for that as well. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about the new FBI IC3 annual report that came out, specifically related to the elder fraud report, and how the number of victims in the 60 plus age population and the amount of losses have drastically increased. And then last week, my guest host, Brian Watson, talked about how scams have evolved over the last 15, 20 years. And so now today I want to talk about, to go back to the annual report from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center for 2024. It highlighted in the 60 plus age population two scams in particular that represented close to half of the losses. And that's the investment scams and the tech support scams. So we're going to start with tech support fraud. And I've got everything up on the screen here. And you can see this is from 2021, that the losses amounted to $347 million, which represents a 137% increase from 2020. And they say most victims, almost 60% of them, reported to be over 60 years of age, and they experience at least 68% of the losses. Now, if you look at this table, look at where we were in 2020, and this is for all age populations, 146 million. It's a lot of money compared to 2017, which was 14 million. But look at 2021, it more than doubled. As they said, it represented a 137% increase. Again, all age populations up to almost $348 million. And the 60 plus population is more than half of that dollar amount. So then this next slide, we get into 2022. And the FBI started putting together the tech and customer support along with government impersonations, because they have a tendency to kind of go together. You'll see as we go through this, we're going to talk about how scams have evolved over the years, and you'll see where the scammers are incorporating government impersonation into their tech support scams. So they started reporting them together. But you can see here the tech and customer support. There was, and again, this is all age populations, over 32,000 reported victims, losing over $806 million. It's a 132% increase. But if you look at this and then look at this, this graph here For the, let's see, the over 60 population represented 69%. That's this dark blue here. They lost over 724 million to these scams, more than victims of all other age groups combined. And victims over 60 have lost their life savings, their homes, and all the way to even losing their lives. And it's devastating. And there have been reported that some have actually committed suicide. So this is not just devastating financially. These scams have a devastating effect psychologically, socially, emotionally. They have a lot more drastic effects. Financial is a huge impact, but these other ones are just as big as well. And look here, call centers overwhelmingly target the elderly with devastating effects. Almost half the victims report to be over 60, 46%, and experience 69% of the losses. As we said, over 724 million. And this is interesting. And this is in 2022. They said that based on the reports that the scams primarily emanate from call centers in South Asia, mainly India. And so the FBI, in response to that, the Department of Justice and the FBI have started collaborating with law enforcement of India to try to combat these cyber-enabled financial crimes and these call center frauds. Now let's look at 2023. Now remember, the tech and customer support, 806 million. It went up 132%. Look at where we're at for 2023. Was 924 million. And you look over here at the trend, it shows that it went up 15%. 15%. Again, that's all age populations. And you might look at that and go, well, that's not really a big increase. Well, 15% might not be a big increase from the previous year, but $924 million, as we said on the previous screen, represents people's life savings. They lose their homes, and sometimes they even lose their lives. So this is devastating. And again, call centers overwhelmingly target older adults. Almost half the complaints, 40%. Yes, it's down a little bit from 2022, which was, I think, 46%. But 40% is still a lot. That needs to be zero. And they experience 58% of the losses, over 770 million, just to the 60 plus population. And if we go back to 2022, it was over 724 million. So those numbers are increasing, and people are losing their lives as a result of this. Now let's look at I found a handful of public service announcements that the FBI has put out over the last, looks like 9 years. So this first one came out on tech support scams on June 2nd, 2016. And when the FBI puts these public service announcements out, it's because they're seeing an increase in these types of scams, an increase in the victims. Maybe the scammers are changing up their techniques, and they're starting to see new techniques. And you're going to see that as we go through these FBI public service announcements over the next 9 years that I have up on the screen for tech support. You're going to see just how these scams have evolved over the years, like what Brian was talking about last week. So this one relates to the subject claims to be an employee of a major computer software or security company offering technical support to the victim, right? That's pretty much how they came out. They could be pretending to be support for cable and internet companies, maybe offering assistance with digital cable boxes and connections, modems, routers. They're claiming the company has received notifications of errors, viruses, security issues from the victim's internet connection. And they're also claiming to work on behalf of government agencies to resolve computer viruses and threats from possible foreign countries or terrorist organizations. So how does this scam work here? So the initial contact occurs by different methods. So one, telephone. Can they call your landline? Yes, they could call your landline, but nowadays almost everyone has smartphones, which are your mobile computers that you carry around with you. And yes, they're a huge convenience to have, but they also can pose threats if not protected appropriately. So it's what they say here. The victims receive a cold call from someone who claims that the victim's computer is sending error messages and viruses were detected. They get a pop-up message, right? The victims, I think a lot of us have seen those on-screen pop-up messages claiming viruses are attacking the device. And here's a phone number to call and receive assistance. Sometimes they could have a locked screen on the device. This is what's called blue screen of death, or BSOD. Victims report receiving a frozen lock screen with a phone number and instructions to contact a phony tech support company. And some victims even reported being redirected to alternate websites, and then the blue screen of death occurred. And that, they said, they've particularly noticed when the victim was accessing social media or financial websites. And sometimes those pop-up messages or lock screens are accompanied by a recorded verbal message. Now, wouldn't that be scary, right? Your computer screen locks and all of a sudden this voice comes out saying that, you call this phone number for assistance. You're already fearful that you're going to lose everything that's on your device. And there could be sensitive documents on your device. It could be, you might have had your bank account open, or it could be putting a virus on there that's going to watch every keystroke that you make. So then they have access to whatever accounts you log into. A lot of different things. And so you're already in that emotional state of being scared. And now this voice comes on there and it freaks you out even more. And so it's going to want to make you call that number without thinking, because you just want this to stop. And you want to get your computer and your data to be safe. And then the device. So if once you've engaged and called that number, if the device is mobile, a tablet, smartphone, the subject often instructs, or I should say the scammer instructs the victim to connect the device to a computer to be fixed. And then once the scammer is remotely connected to the device, they claim to have found multiple viruses, malware, scareware that can be removed for a fee. There's always fees involved. And they'll get it via a personal debit or credit card, an electronic check, a wire transfer. They're going to want you to do a prepaid card. Back in 2016, they saw a few instances where the victim paid by personal check. I think that's pretty much gone by the wayside because of all the access we have to instantly transfer money. I think those personal checks now are taken over with those peer-to-peer apps. Why send a check when you can have somebody just do Venmo or Zelle or PayPal and have it sent directly, to the scammer. And they've noticed back then that there are some variations in trends with this. They saw an increase when this scam occurs, where the scammer contacts the victim offering a refund for tech support services previously rendered because the company was closed. We still see that today. I haven't really heard too much that they've used the company as closed, but what I've heard more of is that they're using the scenario of you're owed a refund on a previous subscription. And so, that's where they pretend to be those more well-known, reputable companies, like Microsoft and McAfee and all of those ones that have been around for a long time. And you very well could have had a subscription with one of those companies. I know a lady that this happened to. They just hit her at the right time because she did have a subscription to the company they were impersonating that she had closed the previous year. And so she thought it was legitimate and went through the whole channel. And so, what they do is they convince the victim to let them have access to their device, but then they log on to their bank account and process the refund. And then the scammer has control of the victim's device and the bank account. And so then the scammer appears to have mistakenly refunded too much money to the victim's account and requests that the victim wire the difference back to the impersonated company, which is really the scammer. But really what happened is that they saw where the scammer was actually just transferring funds between the victim's own accounts, like maybe going from a savings to a checking, or a retirement account to a checking, or whatever accounts were involved there, to make it appear as if those funds were deposited. And then the victim wires the money back, not finding out till later that those funds actually came from one of their own accounts. So, and that refunding and wiring can happen multiple times, in which the victim then loses thousands of dollars. And then the last part of it is they've also noticed where the victims have reported that the scammers are becoming hostile, abusive, foul language, and threats when being challenged by the victims. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that now. I see a lot of things on social media where people, in fact, I just saw one yesterday from a friend where he explained that someone called him saying that someone has taken over his Microsoft, I think it was his Microsoft account, and they needed him to put this code in his computer. And he was like, well, I don't really want to do that. And the person on the other end said, go blank yourself. You can just fill in what he would have said in the blank. But so they are. And I think the becoming hostile, abusive, and foul language and issuing threats is becoming more and more common these days. And as always, with any complaint, whether you've lost money or you haven't, you should report it, because it gives law enforcement more information on how to, or more information on the actual scam, on who's involved, and it adds pieces to the puzzle. And you can do that right at this website here, www.ic3.gov. And if you want to look up any of the FBI's public service announcements, you can get on this website as well, www.ic3.gov, and look under public information. And you can just look at a bunch of different public service announcements over the years that they've put out on a wide variety of crimes and topics. So we were in 2016. Now, 2018, they came out with one just labeled tech support fraud. So again, these complaints are increasing. From 2018 or 2017 to 16 to 17, it went up 86%. So that warrants another public service announcement to come out to get this information out to the public. Went up from complaints from victims from 70 different countries to 85 different countries. So again, scammers are posing as security, customer, technical support, offering to resolve issues as maybe a compromised email account, a bank account, a virus on the computer, assist with a software license renewal or a refund. They're impersonating representatives from printer companies, cable companies. And now they've actually started with these virtual currency exchangers as well. And now that what we said earlier, this fraud's become more commonplace, they've started to pose as government officials, even offering to recover losses related to these tech support fraud schemes, or to request financial assistance with apprehending criminals. Just know that it's law enforcement that is going to go after these criminals, and they do not need financial assistance from the general public to do that. And they work with specific either government companies or specific contracted companies outside of the government to go after these accounts to try to recover losses. And I emphasize try, because recovering losses does not happen a lot. It's happening a lot more these days than it has in the past. But the law enforcement already has these companies who they work with, and they're not going to call the individual victim offering to for money to help get their money back. They're doing it through law enforcement. So the fraud occurs, like we talked about, the telephone. Now here's some new one. There's a pop-up message, the lock screen, search engine advertising. So individuals in need of tech support may use online search engines to find tech support companies. So the scammers will pay to have their fraudulent tech support company's link show higher in the search results, hoping the victims will choose one of those top links in the search results. Those are usually, like if you're on Google, legitimate companies can pay these Google ads to have their information show up first, or in the top 3 up there, and that's it's legitimate companies pay to have this done. But as scams evolve and as the scammers evolve, they are also paying to have their sponsor, and it'll usually say sponsored ad, show up at the top, so you're more likely to click on that. So just when you see something that says sponsored ad, and I know R.O.S E as an organization will do that as well, but just then find the verified website for whatever company it is without going through that sponsored ad. And then you will be able to find anything they're talking about. If it is an actual legitimate sponsored ad, will be on that company's verified website. So just know you don't have to go in through that sponsored ad. You can always go in through the company's verified website. But again, this is the way scammers are evolving. They're using search engine advertising for it. Now, let's see what this says. The pop-ups and the lock screens. We talked about the recorded verbal message, but now they frequently program into links for advertisements. We talked about that. Social media, they're all over social media. And they can make a web address for a popular website look really, really similar, right? They might just change, maybe let's say a lowercase l to the number 1. And are you going to notice that difference? You might not, because your naked eye is looking for the actual company, and you might not notice that that lowercase l is actually a 1, which could make all the difference. And so we always recommend people write down every character to the right of the @ sign. Some people have even suggested writing it down backwards. But if you're writing down every character and you're looking at each individual character and not necessarily the name of the company, you're going to be more apt to get the right character and then notice that it's off. They also now are using, back in 2018, they talked about the phishing email. Those there was a big increase in. Again, getting an email just out of the blue saying that there's an issue. Again, they're using it for the fake refund scheme as well. And again, variations on this: criminals pose as government officials or law enforcement, offering assistance in recovering losses. But now they're posing as collection services, claiming the victim didn't pay for prior tech support services. And they're threatened with legal action. So you get any calls like that, go directly to whatever company the supposed collection the scammer that's posing as the collection company is claiming to get their funds. Go directly to that company, not the collection company, the actual company, and find out if you actually do owe money. Virtual currency, again, increasing. They pose as support for the virtual currency accounts. Getting into those wallets, I believe they're called, to be able to then take over their virtual currency. let's see. Another thing that they were seeing is that the scammers who took control of the victim's devices or accounts didn't release control until a ransom was paid. But you can bet that even if you did pay a ransom to get your stuff back, the criminal already has all of the information. And if it's your bank account, they can wipe it out, and then you're going to get it back with zero. So just be careful with that. Um, Let's go down to 2022. So technical and customer support fraud again. Kind of the same issues in 2022. They're adding like utility companies, cryptocurrency exchanges that they're impersonating. And they're also now seeing an uptick in the use of cryptocurrency ATMs, which is an emerging method of payment. You find a lot of those like in gas stations and shopping malls and things like that. And I actually heard recently someone tell me they were in a gas station, and I don't know where it was at, but the owner literally was ripping out the cryptocurrency ATM, and they started talking to him, and he was like, I have seen so many people come in here with thousands of dollars in cash, and they are just putting it into this cryptocurrency ATM, and they don't invest in cryptocurrency, but yet they're using these. And he goes, I can't stand this anymore. I'm getting rid of this. So just be wary of that. If you are investing in cryptocurrency, please research who you're dealing with, what it is, and make sure you understand it completely before you even start to invest in it. The same as you would do with any investment that you would want to get into. Do your research. And make sure you are using a reputable person if you are using a third party or reputable company to handle this information. So they're also impersonating bank support. So I've heard of this in the last few years where they're talking about saying there's an issue with your bank account. We've noticed fraud. You need to transfer your money. And they tell you, a lot of times they tell you to do it in not all at once, but do it over multiple days in certain amounts to as not alert people at the bank. And then they might also, they're impersonating drivers employed by rideshare or transportation mobility companies, saying that there was an issue regarding a rider complaint or the driver's account. So the driver's convinced to allow access to their account. So this would be like with Uber drivers or Lyft drivers. So if you're a driver for a mobility company, just know that they are impersonating them as well. Travel industry, they're impersonating customer support of car rental, airline, hotel industries, offering these great deals, right? These too good to be true deals, and taking fake reservations. Let's get down to 2020, later in 2022. Excuse me. So scammers using computer technical support impersonation scams to target victims and conduct wire transfers. I think we've talked a lot about this. So what they're saying here is the victims will get contacted through email, elaborate messages that seem authentic, claiming to provide a form of technical service, such as those that you might find at major electronics store chains that sell electronics, computers, and other digital devices. The scammers claim to aid in securing a refund through remote access to the victim's computer. Or the email hints at a pending renewal of a subscription that you have to do within the next 24 hours or you're, going to lose it. It could be a computer protection plan or a warranty, and a sense of urgency to renew it or you're going to lose it. First thing to do there is ask yourself, do you even have that service? Do you even have that warranty or that protection plan? If you're not sure, find the verified phone number of whatever company they're impersonating and call them directly and ask the question. And then if you do, and you do want to renew it, you can renew it through them and not have to go through any links that are in that email. That's your way to verify whether or not that email is accurate. They can also contact you, by phone numbers. And then Scammers have been known to leave voice messages. They are start, they've been leaving voicemail messages, and they want you to call them at this number. And so, it's not that expensive to get phone numbers. So just be careful. You can always verify the phone number and make sure it is an actual phone number of the company that they're claiming to be from. Same kind of thing. They're requesting a refund or receive an explanation of the service renewal. And then they persuade the victim to download remote desktop protocol software. And then that actually gives the scammers full access to their computers. With the refund, it works on the same way, where they can get into the person's bank account because they're already into the computer, and they get the victim to open up their bank account, showing that they've deposited a refund, but oh my gosh, I put too many zeros in there. It's a mistake. I'm going to get fired. I need you to send the money back right away. And so this, again, is how they've evolved. It's not necessarily where they're transferring money from your accounts, from one of your accounts to another account. They actually make it look like they're putting a refund into your account, and they put too many zeros to the left of the decimal point, right? And so then they're going to get fired. And so they get you to run to the bank and take cash out, and they tell you how to send it, or I need you to wire the money back to me. And then you don't know until a day or two later that, oh my gosh, that money never hit my account to begin with. So now I'm out. I'm out of this month. I'm out of the money that I sent to them. So, here's a sample interaction screen. Welcome to blank. You can just put a company's name in refund server. Please enter your name. Accepted. Please enter your bank name. Verifying. Verified. Zip codes. Verifying. Then they verified it. The refund amount. Please wait. Money wired. Money cleared. Please check your account balance. Thank you for banking with us. They can make your screen show all of these things to make it look like it is actually your bank, showing that they've verified your information and that the money's wired. They've verified that you've received it. So just remember, you resist the pressure to act quickly, and always verify before you can trust the contact. And verify by, if you have the legitimate phone number for whatever company it is, call them. Find their verified website, go there and get the phone number and call them, or log on to your account if you do the online stuff with these companies the way you normally would, and check your account out. But verify, talk to somebody, talk to your trusted person, and go through the steps as to what sometimes you saying it out loud, your brain kind of flips out of that emotional state into your rational state. And then you all of a sudden go, this doesn't make any sense. So talk to somebody. There's a lot of tech support announcements. We're into 2023, or PSAs. Here's one. Phantom hacker scams target senior citizens and result in victims losing their life savings. So this is where the phantom hacker scam uses tech support scam, so impersonating a tech support company, a financial institution, and government personas to enhance the trust of the victim. And the scammers have been known to just wipe out entire banks, checking, savings, retirement, investment accounts. There's estimated losses of 542 million with this. So a scammer poses as a tech or customer support from a legitimate company, right? Any of those ways we talked about. The victim then engages with them. They get them to download a software program, allowing the scammer access to their computer. They pretend to run a virus scan, claims the virus has been at risk or it hacked. And then they ask them to open their financial accounts. And then all of a sudden there's these, fraud going on their account. And then lo and behold, here comes a financial institution imposter. And then they start showing them that there's fraud on their account and that a foreign hacker has been involved, and that the victim must move their money to a safe third-party account, such as an account with the Federal Reserve or another U.S. government agency. And they direct them how to do that, whether it's through a wire transfer, cryptocurrency. And then phase 3, in comes the U.S. government imposter. So then they can be posing as a U.S. government employee at the Federal Reserve or another government agency. And then if the victim becomes suspicious of the government imposter, they may send an email or a letter on what appears to be an official U.S. government letterhead to legitimize the scam. And they just continue to emphasize your funds are unsafe. They must be moved to this new alias account for until the victim finally will do it. So here's another graph here, tech support imposter, that there's an issue and that it affects your bank account. Now you have a second one coming in impersonating someone at the bank, and then a third one coming in impersonating someone as a government imposter to get you to believe this, make it all the more legitimate, and want you to move your money. So here we are in 2024. Scammers have upped their game again. Now they're actually using couriers to come get the cash, or they get you to take your money and buy gold bars or some sort of precious metal, and the courier comes and picks that stuff up. And so, they do the same thing as the phantom hacker scam. They impersonate tech support, then they impersonate a bank official, then a government official. But now step 2 is they're using couriers. So they'll send a courier to retrieve items at the victim's homes, or they'll have them meet them in a public location. So they may direct the victim to authenticate the transaction with the courier using a passcode, such as the serial number of a US dollar bill, and that they'll safeguard the assets in a protected account until they can get their bank account stuff fixed. Well, then you never hear from them again. You go to your bank, you find out this was all a scam, and you are out all of that money. So I think you can see from all these different public service announcements how there's still a lot of the same tactics that they use in these tech support scams, but how they've evolved over the years, and they're implementing it and making their schemes. They're using more tactics in it, that they're impersonating multiple people, or they're adding that you're getting a refund instead of having to pay for something, or that your account, and is in jeopardy. You need to transfer your money into this new account, or go out and buy precious metals, or just take the cash out and we're going to send a courier to come get it. So the other one I want to talk about before we run out of time is investment scams. Now, investment scams, they can be liquidity mining. Victims are enticed to link their cryptocurrency wallet to a fraudulent liquidity mining, a hacked social media. So this happens all the time. So if and this is different from your social media being cloned. Cloned is they have another social media account where they're using your pictures and all of that to impersonate you. But some people's accounts actually get hacked where they then don't have any control of their account. And now the scammer can start messaging their friends. They have access to their friends list, even if they're private, because they've gotten into the person's social media account. And so then they start posing as you, wanting your friends to invest in these great opportunities. Celebrity impersonations. This is happening all of the time. If you just type in Google or whatever search bar you use, celebrity impersonation scams, you are going to find so many celebrities who have been impersonated, so many different types of scams. But again, they pretend to be a celebrity. They are going to make a friendship with you and entice you to want to invest in some sort of investment, sometimes cryptocurrency. They're even targeting real estate professionals. They act as a real estate agency or a real estate agent, offering to buy a very expensive property for cash or crypto. And then once engaged, the scammer will expose their control of fictitious accounts. They'll have fictitious accounts with purported value of millions of dollars to entice the real estate professional to engage in their investment scheme. There's employment ones out there, fake positions at investment firms. Again, verify before you do any investment. Verify that the investment is legitimate, and that if you're using a third party, that you are using a legitimate third party, and verify with the verified website or the verified phone number, and check things out before you do any investment. 2023, let's look at the graph here. 19, you can see it's a lot of money. It's probably, well, I think the red is crypto investment. The green is investments in general. They were up to looks like just under maybe about $200 million. And by the way this bar graph reads, you're going to look at it and say, oh, there's not very many losses. Well, $250 million is a lot. But look at how this grows. Didn't grow much in 2020. Look at how it jumped in 2021. Now look how it more than doubled again in 2022. And then it goes up again. We're in the billions of dollars now with these investment scams. And if you look over to the left, look at this, the 30 to 39-year-olds, the 40 to 49-year-olds had the most victims. And the over 60 had a lot of victims as well, as long as the 30 to 39-year-olds. If I had to guess, I would guess that the over 60 probably lost more money than the 40 to 49 and the 30 to 39 did. But that's just a guess on my part. So you can see how the investments, cryptocurrency investments, companies falsely claiming to recover lost funds in cryptocurrency. And then they're getting into this non-fungible token developers. Can't really tell you about non-fungible token developers because I haven't really learned anything about that, but I'm sure there are legitimate ones out there that if you wanted to learn more, you could find information on the web. But let's look at some public service announcements from the FBI. This is 2022. So this is a Miami field office. Investment schemes involving cryptocurrency called pig butchering. Pig butchering is a way that they've evolved with their investment schemes. So this is where they pose as highly successful traders. And they are, first of all, when they make contact with you, usually on various social media or dating applications. But it could come in a variety of different ways. And they're posing as a potential friend or maybe a romantic partner. So with this pig butchering, they're bringing romance, kind of some techniques in from the romance scam and doing that grooming there to get you to believe what they're saying. And they use fake websites and apps to show you that they're making all of this money, and they'll use them to show you how you can track your investments, to show you that you're making all this money, to get you to want to keep investing. And then when you want to cash out, they're told they need to pay income taxes or fees, causing you to lose more money. And then you're unable to retrieve your investments, as you often lose contact with the scammers. They might close the fraudulent website, or they're just going to cease contact with you. So many of those victims reported making wire transfers to overseas accounts. They're using cryptocurrency ATMs. Let's see. Again, investments, you have to verify everything. I did, when I was doing the podcast last year, I did one of my podcasts with a gentleman who was in a pig butchering scheme, but he did a lot of research before he invested money and came across this pig butchering scheme and realized that that's what she was doing to him. And I will contact him and see if I can't get him back on so we can talk more about this, but the pig butchering scheme in particular. But this was another PSA from 2023. They're seeing a spike in crypto investment schemes. They approach the victims. They build the trust. And the building the trust here is the dangerous part, because they're exploiting your trust, and that gets you to believe what they're saying and put more money into these investments over time. Just keep investing and investing. Then they introduce the scheme, and then they steal your funds. So they are socially engineered and trust enabled, right? Beginning with a confidence or romance scam, excuse me, and then evolving into the crypto investment fraud. They use fake identities. They build those relationships. Just be careful if you're on dating apps, social media platforms, networking sites, encrypted messaging apps. You have to do your research, and you can't just believe what people are telling you. And especially with the pig butchering and when they're trying to befriend you and they go through this building trust here, that's along the lines of the grooming and the romance scam. And that can get very dangerous. I spoke to a lady who she said it was as if they took over, the criminal took over her brain, had her thinking everything he wanted her to think. So that just adds a whole nother layer onto these schemes. And it could be hard to break that trust that the scammer has you in. So be very careful. Always do your research. Here, they've noticed later in 2023, they noticed an increase in falsely claiming to recover lost funds. And that is the end of those public service announcements. So with any investment, just please, please, please do your research. There's a lot of legitimate information online. If there's a lot of investment brokers that have offices in your neighborhood, your town, your city. If you're not familiar with any of them, talk to your friends and see who they use as an investment broker that they trust, or maybe a family member has somebody that they trust, and talk directly with them and verify things before you actually spend any money in these investments. And you really have to understand cryptocurrency before you get invested in it. You really need to understand it. I would imagine some investment brokers deal in cryptocurrency. Again, ask for references and verify everything before you decide to do these investments. But I hope you were able to see today, one, get some more information on these investment scams and tech support scams. And for those of you that, I know we talk a lot about how this affects the 60 plus population, but if you have older loved ones that you are talked to on a regular basis, and they could be neighbors, they could be family members, friends, whatever, just start talking about this information. Just say, hey, I was listening to Rose's radio show and I got on the FBI's IC3.gov website and I found this public service announcement. Look what these criminals are doing. And it's a non-defensive, non-threatening way to just start having these conversations, because the more we talk about it, the more it helps everybody keep scam awareness and protection at top of mind, and to be able to help people when they're contacted realize that it's a scam before they get into that emotional state or before the scammer has started a grooming process. And then please always verify before you can trust anything. That's all I have for today. Remember, you can get on our website at roseadvocacy.org. Sign up for our emailed and mailed newsletters at the bottom of the homepage. Social media links are there. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find all the past live radio streams and the shorts on there, plus the older podcasts that I did. You can find those episodes on there as well. And see you next Tuesday. Thank you.
Well, that's all the knowledge for this episode. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com as Joyce explores a variety of knowledge so you have the power to make scam protection your healthy habit. And until then, feel free to reach out to Joyce and let's talk about scams.